There's actually a place when the ancient hardwired survival programs actually kick in to drop some serious fat and actually reset metabolic function. This is called a monk fast. I'm talking about a unique kind of state that your body's in that forces it to ramp up the production of what's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor for your brain. It ignites a major cellular cleanup called autophagy that literally eats old dysfunctional cells, and it fundamentally resets your hormonal signaling for fat loss and sleep. Okay, it's a huge thing, and it's not regular fasting. It's called a monk fast. It's a 36-hour specific type of fast. So we're going to skip all the fluff. We're going to get straight into the actual mechanisms here. So I'm going to show you how to leverage this really like once a week, once every couple of week protocol to drop serious fat, literally build new brain cells, and finally get like restorative sleep that you feel like you've been missing out on forever. And we're going to reset back to baseline. This stuff actually works. So here's what we're going to cover in today's video. We're going to cover the metabolic ignition. Okay, so we're going to break down the precise physiological changes that occur between 16, 24, and 36 hours. We're going to talk about why the final push, that final push in the last few hours, is a non-negotiable for the deep benefits of a monk fast. So we're going to talk about autophagy. We're going to talk about the inner janitor, right? This entire like cellular cleanup process that's critical, literally recycling old damaged cells for a lot of rejuvenation. Then we're going to talk about a piece that people don't discuss, the hormone piece. And I want you to understand in this video how extended fasting in this 36-hour window seriously optimizes like key fat burning, like big fat burning and muscle preserving hormones, and can sharpen metabolic health. So it's going to make a big difference with insulin sensitivity. And again, this 36-hour period is precisely what we need, right? We're going to talk about the brain effects and the sleep reset. Okay, the neurochemical changes that give you more focus, that protect your brain, that really unlock the restorative sleep that a lot of us miss out on. And then lastly, I'm going to give you the practical playbook. Okay, like the simple step-by-step guide how to completely execute a 36-hour fast, and also the steps for breaking it correctly, because you can make it or break it with how you end your fast. So let's just jump right into the science with this. Okay, if you trace the journey of your body's fuel system during a fast, it gets really fascinating. It's not just about feeling hungry. It's quite literally like an orchestrated response. It's like a metabolic symphony that is perfectly executed. Okay, so if you look at what happens in the first 12 to 16 hours, it's fascinating. Okay, but it really gets interesting after that. So the first 12 to 16 hours, your body's really running on glucose. Okay, and it's running on glucose from stored glycogen in your muscles and your liver. And it's really like your body's quick access pantry. It's just whatever's available. And once the pantry starts to empty, that's when the magic begins. That's when the cool stuff starts. For one, there's something called gluconeogenesis, and this kicks in at 16 to 24 hours. So after about 16 hours, your glycogen stores are really depleted. You're out of the stored pantry food. This is when your body activates this process, this gluconeogenesis, and it's really just a fancy way of saying your body's creating new carbohydrates or new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. So it's mainly taking fat from your fat stores. Sometimes it takes amino acids, and it's going to pull those from maybe your muscles, or it's going to pull them from, other things. But it's not what people think. You're not just like ripping your muscles apart to have amino acids. Your body predominantly uses the fat stores first. There was a review published in the Annual Review of Nutrition, and it highlighted this. They called it sort of a metabolic flexibility piece, showing how your body really becomes powerful at sourcing its own glucose when dietary carbs aren't available. So what happens is your body's actively turning your fat into a brain fuel, meaning glucose. Even if your glucose is low, it's magically making glucose. Then 20 to 28 hours is when things get super cool. So when gluconeogenesis, this process continues, your liver says, okay, well, we need more energy. So it starts to ramp up ketone production. These are really efficient fat-derived fuel molecules. Okay, so the main one that we talk about is beta-hydroxybutyrate. All right, so there's a lot of studies on that. There was a study that really showed that between 20 and 28 hours, ketone levels literally double. Okay, so this is giving you a cleaner burning, like a more stable energy. It really is a good source for both your brain and your muscles. So it's better than glucose alone in this context. So this shift ends up making it so that you don't just have sustained energy, but you also have less oxidative stress. So everything is burning cleaner, and your body knows when it produces ketones, it's literally an internal antioxidant. So it's just making systems run smoother for efficiency. But the monks knew it best. It's called a monk fast because that 28 to 36 hour peak is when you get the real benefits. And they actually feel they get closer to like enlightenment, right? They feel like they can actually be spiritually clicked in better because you get this heightened brain function. Your brain can use ketones, but it's still asking for some glucose, right? So especially for certain neurotransmitter functions. So at that 36-hour peak, the sustained energy demand just means your body is continuing this rate of fat to glucose conversion, and it's really maximizing fat utilization after that 30-hour mark. Okay, so it's essentially forcing your body to become a master at using its stored fat. And you develop this efficiency super fast. So most modern metabolisms don't really have this anymore. Like, we've forgotten how to do that. But this is where it gets really interesting, because this extended period becomes less about fuel. Well, it does, but it's still about fuel. But what becomes more important is the profound cellular house cleaning. Now, we've all had those days where we feel super sluggish, where we feel mentally foggy, or maybe we feel old, even if we're not that old. Like, we all have those days where I feel old. That's really a lot of different things, but a lot of times it's oxidative stress and cellular junk, and your body needs to sort of upregulate this internal recycling system. Okay, that's autophagy. That's really key here. It really ramps up after that 28-hour period. Now, remember, you're gonna get autophagy when you exercise, when you calorically restrict, okay, when you sauna, but if you can consolidate it into a 36-hour period and get a stronger autophagy effect, I'm all for it. Okay, so this autophagy literally translates into self-eating. It's your body's QA, like sort of like quality control, right? So you're identifying, you're removing, you're consolidating all these damaged proteins, mitochondria, all kinds of things, right? So think of it as your cells bringing in a cleanup crew to declutter, consolidate, and rejuvenate the entire cellular factory, again, for efficiency, the common theme here. And this process is super regulated by these energy sensors. Okay, so when you fast, you have a pathway called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, and you have AMPK. Now, AMPK is the sensor that says we're low on fuel. mTOR is the sensor that says we have plenty of fuel. When AMPK is elevated, autophagy kicks in. We're low on fuel, let's start breaking down other things for fuel. This specific cascade is literally the physiological switch that triggers autophagy. Okay, there was a big review in Nature Reviews of Molecular Cell Biology that detailed how this entire self-digestion, they literally even called it critical for stress resistance, for DNA repair, and I guess you could even say anti-aging, right? So it's like all of us are trying to anti-age to a certain degree. It's like hitting a reset button for your cells, but it's not magic. Okay, that's why you do it somewhat more frequently. It's just going to be about kind of creating that efficiency for your cellular machinery and just that regular maintenance. But without regular autophagy from exercise, from fasting, from caloric restriction, damaged components accumulate. Okay, this leads to ROS. This leads to cellular dysfunction, to inflammation, a bunch of different age-related diseases. So by engaging in these 36-hour fasts, I mean, yes, you're looking better, sure, but you're really just functioning better at the most fundamental level possible. So you end up having more sustained energy, like it's just clearer skin, maybe your brain feels clearer. I mean, quite frankly, you feel a little bit younger. One of the most impressive aspects of doing a 36-hour like monk fast is the effect it has on the endocrine system. Okay, the hormone recalibration that can impact fat loss, muscle preservation, and it has a big effect on brain function too. So there is a growth hormone surge. I know some people like talk about like a 2000% benefit or increase in growth hormone. Yes, that happens, but it's pulsatile and it's small, and that's really kind of looking at it in a weird way. But you do get a surge, okay? During a 36-hour fast, your body has a surge in growth hormone. And there was some studies published, multiple journals, but one of the kind of the most famous is the Journal of Clinical Investigation. And that showed that GH levels can increase by 5-fold during extended fasting. That's a little bit more realistic than say a 2000% increase, because that's, again, pulsatile. That's not really valid. But what's happening, if we understand it mechanistically, it's not so much about muscle growth. You're not going to turn into some bodybuilder magically in a fasted state because you have 5 times the amount of growth hormone, okay? And this elevated growth hormone is really important more so as a fat mobilizer. Okay, so growth hormone is very lipolytic. Okay, it signals your fat cells to release the stored triglycerides, and it helps convert them into free fatty acids for energy. So although it is muscle sparing and helps you build muscle, it's much more about fat loss in this context. But as we do know, growth hormone is good for building muscle. So it does protect the actual lean muscle tissue from being broken down. So this is making it so that your body is preferentially burning fat while preserving muscle. So the growth hormone is really helping you here. Okay, this is critical for the fat loss without sacrificing the strength or the muscle mass. Otherwise, we'd all just waste away anytime we don't eat. But the other hormonal piece is you're really supercharging your insulin sensitivity. This is a big one. So if you're dealing with any kind of insulin resistance or metabolic dysfunction, a 36-hour fast is a really powerful intervention. This is where it gets powerful. So if you go for 36 hours without food, your pancreas is getting a substantial rest from producing insulin. And this rest period alone allows your cells to literally become more sensitive to insulin. It's like that white noise. It's like having a fan that's running and then finally turning the fan off, and the cells can be like, oh, I hear that insulin's coming now, rather than just being drowned by being flooded by it all the time. There was a study a while back in Cell Metabolism that found that even shorter fasts, like intermittent fasting, improves insulin sensitivity and it lowers insulin levels. But when you start cranking it up to these 36-hour fasts, it's significantly more, okay? And when you finally do reintroduce food, your body ends up using those nutrients a lot more efficiently. And this ends up preventing them from being stored just immediately as fat. But we said we'd talk about the brain, and there's something that happens uniquely. And again, with the monk fasts, I talk about how, this is really about gaining this mental function. So beyond fuel and hormones, your brain is getting a big upgrade too. Okay, so fasting in general is going to increase what's called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I've talked about this a lot, and we call it brain fertilizer in the research setting because it's kind of funny, right? It's just like it does help the brain grow. It's a protein that your body produces that actually promotes the growth of new neurons. So you're getting actual brain growth. So you're getting stronger neural connections. You're actually protecting your brain cells from stress. It's a really powerful protein. And there was a review that was taking a look at BDNF, and they found that it really played a super vital role in cognitive function in general, memory, and what's called plasticity, being able your brain to change and morph and adapt, right? So the increase in BDNF ends up translating for us normal people into just a little bit more mental clarity, maybe some more focus, improved memory. So you might get all of that, right? Maybe a little more resilience to stressors, like stress isn't going to impact you as much. Maybe poor sleep isn't going to impact you. And BDNF is really that reason you feel so sharp during a fast. So how do we actually make this actionable? Okay, what happens here? Okay, if you understand the benefits of a 36-hour monk fast, that's great, but just knowing things isn't good if you can't apply it. Okay, it's simpler than you think though, but let me give you my step-by-step protocol so it's easy. Okay, so step number 1, start your 36-hour fast after your last meal on a Sunday evening. Okay, or whatever, just after your last meal, it starts. So let's say you finish dinner around 6 p.m. That's going to be your calorie cutoff. This sets you up to fast through Monday, and you break your fast Tuesday morning. So the actual fasting day, in this case Monday, let's call it, you're going to hydrate, and I recommend even distracting yourself. Okay, so 0 calories. You're not going to eat anything Monday. Your primary tools are going to be water, black coffee, maybe some tea. Okay, you don't need to be ridiculously strict. I think you can have those coffees, you can have those teas, maybe even a pinch of salt or some electrolyte supplements or something. That will help you manage the hunger, and it can help you keep your energy a little bit higher, especially as you get into the later hours of a fast, as you're transitioning into using ketones. That can be a little hard for the body at first. You might feel a little bit hungry in the beginning, but again, your body's going to shift its fuel source. Okay, so it's like shifting from gasoline to jet fuel in many ways. So there's a transition period as you run out of gas and start using jet fuel. So use that hunger sort of as a signal that your body's adapting rather than breaking down. Okay, it's tapping into the fat stores, and it takes a second for enzymatic function and flexibility to kick in. So if you need to, distract yourself, right? So maybe some light exercise, maybe go for a walk, maybe go for a run, do some resistance training, can help you maintain the muscle that's on you. Just don't push it super, super hard because you're already in a stressed state. You want to preserve enough energy for your body to actually focus on cellular repair, right? So you're normally eating. Let's take that energy and allow that energy that is used for digestion to actually be used in repair. And then step 3 is sort of the finish line when you actually break your fast, right? The critical part. So you'll go to bed Monday and you'll probably be a little hungry, okay? Or maybe you might not even sleep real good Monday night. That's kind of normal because your adrenaline's elevated, but you'll wake up Tuesday morning and then you're gonna be roughly at 36 hours, okay? So this is where the magic of sort of breaking the fast comes in, and it's really important for maximizing the full effect. I would recommend going for a little walk, getting a light workout in before your actual refeed strategy starts, okay? So what I would suggest is a reintroduction with bone broth, okay? So after a longer fast, I don't want you to dive immediately into a huge meal. Your digestive system's been taking a break. It can sometimes change some things. So start with something super gentle. Bone broth is perfect because you get the collagen, you get the aminos, you get the glycine, and this is really good for the gut lining, and it preps you for food. So think of it as reintroducing nutrients to a freshly cleaned engine, right? You don't want to just throw and you put it on the racetrack and have it go, right? You also can have massive insulin spikes. So let's just ease it into it, keep it nice and easy. Then I want you to go with lean protein about 60 minutes after the bone broth. Okay, so you're gonna wait, you're gonna chill for a little bit, relax, let your cortisol levels come down, have something like grilled chicken, fish, or maybe 93 to 96% lean beef. Okay, something super lean. And why is it lean? Because you're so insulin sensitive at this point, protein's gonna be more efficiently shuttled in your muscle cells. So I'd rather you have it without the fat that can slow that insulin spike. Yes, protein spikes insulin. So I want you to be able to get that insulin spike without the fat. So a leaner protein. I put a link for my preferred protein that I use to break a fast with. It's from a company called ButcherBox, all grass-fed, grass-finished, the highest quality meat that I've used in a very long time. But their beef is the best tasting and their bison is the best tasting bison I've ever had. Super good stuff. So that link is down below. That actually gets you a special link that shows you the different cuts that I use, and the stuff gets delivered to your doorstep. It just makes it convenient, and that way you can have it planned out. So you want to go for, again, like a leaner cut. They also have chicken, they have scallops, they have fish. Stuff is a game changer. And again, it's at your door in a couple of days. So that link, it's down below. It's in the top line of the description for ButcherBox, grass-fed, high quality, grass-finished beef, and a bunch of other meat cuts. So again, down below in the description. But then after you have that lean protein, about 2 hours after that, have a larger balanced meal. This is where you're gonna focus just flat out on whole unprocessed foods, right? So a gradual refeeding strategy. This is gonna make it so now you get the fiber in, now you get the nutrients in. It's less about just the stopgap and it's more about what you are bringing in. So again, this is like a once a week, once a 2 week, maybe once a month, depending on how much you have to lose or what you want to do. And you get all the benefits and you don't have to fast as often if you do this. So you get the fat burning, you get the autophagy, you get the hormone optimization, and you get the brain boost, but you're not depriving yourself on the daily. So in my opinion, it's like a rhythmic reset for sort of your entire system. I did a video here that breaks down a type of fasting that's specifically good for visceral fat. It's called protein pacing. Okay, it's a really interesting concept. So I recommend you check out that video if you're looking for something you can do a little more regularly. So that's right here. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, turn on those notifications. I'll see you tomorrow.